Hey everyone, this is Melinda Clark, and we are going beyond the OC, whatever that means.
It means that we're diving in deep. That's what it means. We're getting into the nitty gritty.
Right. Okay, so, but honestly,
We're getting down and dirty. Like
Down and
two
dirty.
characters in this episode we're doing.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I did want to point out that I think when I thought about the title, that I wanted, obviously, we love the show, we love talking about it, this is all fan motivated, but also I want to do some interviews with people coming up that are because there is life beyond the OC. We have figured that one out. But I also want to interview more people that I've worked with too. So you guys in the audience, let me know. I was thinking it would be fun to interview people that I worked with on Nikita and other shows and such. So that would be like the Beyond the OC special bonus interviews. Anyway, I'm working on that. That being said, today, you guys, is one of my favorite episodes. It's number 43 on our rewind, the telenovela. Say that fast many, many times, telenovela. And it was directed by Sanford Bookstaver, written by Josh and our lovely Stephanie Savage. CG and I were just doing a podcast a few weeks ago, and we had to listen to which episode was it, CG?
What podcast were we doing?
I don't know. We're Cory Martin, who was a writer and a part of the OC from the very, very beginning. We just loved her interview so much. So she's here, you guys. Welcome, Cory.
Thank you. It's fun to be back.
I think it was last week's episode because you were talking, Cory, about how you wrote whatever those are called, the books that are like the additional part of the characters. I think that was last week's episode, Mom. Maybe the week before.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because we're going out of order. It's hard to remember exactly where we are. So I texted Cory and I was like, "Hey, what episode do you want to talk about?" And she said, "I want to come back for the risky business," which it's on the list, but it's a little it had a lot of votes, so it's not close. We're at number 43 and we're counting down to 1 from 50. But she has so many memories about season 1 that did you discover anything exciting about the telenovela?
You know what? I actually found the script last night and I was reading it and it was so fun. And I was like, oh, Julie and Luke, like I forgot about that. And there's a description, because they write like the character walks in and looks like whatever. And it was like looking extra milfy today when she first sees Luke in the hallway.
Oh my gosh, you know what, Cory? This is what we were missing. This is exactly what we were missing in the last podcast, because I kept thinking, like, of course I couldn't find the scripts. And, the scene where she literally steps in and the camera, because if you read that, the production, the actors, the director, everyone reads and the costume. And so you go in and once again, I said this in the last podcast, when I opened this script, it was the moment that I went, oh my God, I fucking love this show, because they were giving me such great dialogue, this whole booty call stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember, so I'm so glad you said that. That's so funny.
You were looking extra milfy, Mom.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I think that's what's funny is like, she's wearing almost like a Chanel type suit.
I feel like I had that suit when I was a kid. Is that you got me a suit like that when I was a kid because you looked extra milfy in it? You're like, let's get this suit.
Probably. No, that's funny because I do have memories. A lot of times it's an interesting thing that we've been kind of at since the book has been out and everything, that you realize not everyone had a great experience, which is, that's just the reality. But the actors, sometimes we can't separate our real moods or just our personalities. And you can see how much fun I was having in that specifically. And she's like, we can't do this. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And he's like, no, I just mean here. I'll see you tonight. Yeah. It was fun. CG's now grown up.
Yeah, now she can watch it. She wasn't watching it when she was
I watched it when I was 18, but that was like 15 years after the first season aired. Yeah, it took me a while to accept that I watched it when I was 18. So technically, like, my mom was sleeping with people that were my age when I was watching it. I was like, this is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like trying to imagine my mom. I was like, what if my mom slept with my ex-boyfriend in real life? Like, what the hell would I do if she did that? Yeah.
Did you actually picture that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I think Marissa handled it much better than I would have.
Really?
Actually, no, I probably would have done the screaming and throwing the lawn chair into the pool and stuff like that too.
Oh, God.
That she does in later episodes.
There's a comment from YouTube. Eddie Hill, 1014. He's like, one of the stories I didn't like about season 1 was the Julie and Luke storyline. Ew, she should be ashamed. And I was like, and then somebody else wrote, what in this? And I'm like, I wonder where she lives in that, or just in her culturally. She's like, what's the problem with 2 single people getting together? I still think it was ridiculous. Marissa said she loved Ryan, so she went on with her life, was happy with him. Caleb is older, but not a great guy. Luke was. An older woman can't be together with a young guy.
I mean, maybe not when they're in high school. like later when he's in his 20s, go for it. But
and while he's still in high school with her daughter.
I know, this might be the only quote. I don't know how I found it. And it was that I'm like, wow.
Like, you're literally at the motel and he's like, oh, I don't want to be late for homeroom.
And then Julie goes, okay. You guys, I forgot to read this. We got right into it because
we didn't even read the synopsis of the episode.
We didn't read the synopsis. We got right into it. But no, she totally gets like, like, oh God, like she has a moment of like, oh God, what am I doing? Dioramas and, and she's just glowy and she's never looked better. And I think I made a point in the last podcast. And I realize I didn't understand this, Cory, at the beginning, that they were worried that I was young. So they kept putting me in a lot of makeup and older clothing. And from the day one, I was fighting that. And I was like, I grew up in Orange County. The moms look like sisters.
Yeah.
So now I realize I kept fighting like less and less makeup, which is nice. So anyway.
I just want to say, I love when you're like, it's like Special Agent Julie. She's like in the pink tracksuit and the big glasses on. She's like, Luke, this is a booty call.
Well, and I think what was funny was, and I like the progression of that, like with Caleb, I said it last time, but it's still, you know what I found actually? I found the promo. I downloaded it, the actual Fox. And it was this kind of, the promo for that episode. And it started with, is this a booty call? And it went into this kind of, it was promoting it, the marketing department, with the humor that is the telenovela. And it was one of those natural, it wasn't written, Alan Dale literally said booty call. I said he was from Australia, he's from New Zealand. But he just genuinely said, he didn't repeat what I said, booty, the way we say it. He said, what's a booty call? It just made this like iconic scene. So many people loved it.
Well, I want to ask Cory, I mean, we should really read the synopsis. But anyways, so the words like MILF and like booty call and things like that, like, are those, I don't know. I just want to know how that like comes into the writing room, because I feel like my mom was saying like there was like a screen test or like what's it called? Like a test for the word MILF to see if people like knew like what it meant. Like, how do words and phrases like that get into the script? Like, is it like hard to get funny things like that in?
I mean, I think it was more like, let's just put it all in. But I think, the writer's room, it's also a lot of people talking about their life, right? So like people would tell stories about like, yeah, I got this booty call, or, like it's part of the vernacular of the time and everyone was talking like that. So they put it in the script and then it goes through standards and practices and like, it'll say like, this is inappropriate. And I wonder if like MILF and certain things, like some of those people didn't even know what it was. And so they just let it fly.
Yeah.
So since we looked back, I told the story. Deborah Hassenklein was an executive and she was a guest on the episode that we did way back when. And we were talking about the story that the episode just before this is when Luke shows up and we shot it, which means that when he says, Mrs. Cooper, you're a total MILF, which means it got through the script. It got through shooting, which is a lot of different versions got through the network. And when they finally saw the edit, that's when they were like, well, what does that mean? And Standards and Practices did test groups. And 90% of them knew what it was. And Josh kept saying, no, mother, I'd like to fool around with and trying to get away with it. And they decided to make us cut it. And Deborah was saying like today they would know. It's like Standards and Practices. They make sure they're up on what the vernacular is now, right?
Wait, but it was in the episode. What do you mean they made you? Yeah, it was. He goes, you're a total MILF.
It may have, no, it wasn't. It got cut. It's not there. We shot it, but it's not there.
Are you sure?
Absolutely positive. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to read the synopsis because we need to go. We're just getting into it and going crazy. So, in this episode of the OC, aptly entitled The Telenovela, Ryan and Marissa awkwardly try to be just friends post breakup, but things get spicy when Teresa shows up with a secret engagement ring and a whole lot of baggage. Seth is done with Summer's undercover lover act and stages an over the top declaration, turning their love life into a public spectacle worthy of Telemundo. Julie and Luke's fling thing continues under the radar, but Julie's getting jumpy, juggling this and clueless Caleb, who mistakes booty calls for romantic gestures. Dinner at the Cohen house becomes an awkward showdown, with Marissa and Teresa exchanging daggers over the salad. And just when you think it can't get crazier, Ryan kisses Teresa, Eddie calls, and suddenly it's clear. Newport Beach has its very own telenovela, complete with love triangles, secret affairs, and over-the-top drama that make you wonder if you're watching The OC or La Vida Loca.
I have fun writing these things. So there you go. Living La Vida Loca. I think that song came out like right about then, didn't it? I think so.
Okay, I wasn't alive. No, wait, I was alive. Was I?
You were alive. Yeah, I think so.
I wasn't aware of music at the time.
Yeah. Anyway, that was it really is the whole booty call thing and the Luke storyline. As much as people were just revolted by the whole thing, it was still made for great dramedy, I guess, as we say, right? Hey, Beyond the OC listeners. Thank you for listening. This episode is proudly brought to you by LolaVie, an award-winning hair care line founded by the fabulous Jennifer Aniston. You know, hair so iconic it needs no introduction.
We all put our hair through the ringer. Coloring, heat, stress, aging, water from your bad shower head. The list goes on. And over time, it takes a toll. And honestly, Jen got tired of the damage and the struggle of having to choose between good hair products that work and ones that are actually good for you with great ingredients.
So instead of mixing this cream with that serum, she decided to bottle something of her own by diving into the science of it all while using naturally derived plant-based ingredients. All LolaVie products feature their signature scent, a naturally derived blend of herbal, citrus, and woody notes.
Imagine the uplifting combination of fresh citrus, calming rose petals, crisp lemongrass, refreshing green tea, intoxicating woods, and gentle musk.
It starts with LolaVie, inspired by Jen's favorite spas from around the world. And LolaVie product line is more than just hair care. It's a passport to tranquility for your senses. And I have such fine hair. It can be frizzy and lifeless and have no weight. And using heat on it can cause damage. So I can use all the help I can get. So I've been using the LolaVie for a few months now, and my hair has not only calmed down, but it feels so much better, and like for multiple days even. So my favorite is the glossing detangler and the leave-in formula and the lightweight hair oil. It all works so well together for my hair type, and it feels so healthy all weekend. Did you notice that, CG?
I did. Actually, when we were recording today, I said, wow, Mom, your hair looks really nice. And this is actually my day 2 hair as well. I washed my hair yesterday using the LolaVie products, and I just love them, and they smell delicious. I love the ingredients too. LolaVie is all about natural plant-based goodness, no silicone, sulfates, parabens, or gluten. So if you have celiac, none of this stuff you don't want and is full of everything that you do want. And I love that it is cruelty-free and vegan. I use the restorative shampoo and conditioner plus the intensive repair treatment weekly. And it's literally like going to the spa and doing a hair mask. Like my hair just feels so soft afterwards. And here's a treat for you, our awesome listeners. For a limited time, you get an exclusive 15% off your entire order at lolavie.com. Just use code OC at checkout. I mean, if you're taking hair care advice, why listen to anyone besides the woman who gave us the iconic Rachel?
Unlock Jennifer Aniston approved hair at lolavie.com. As our loyal listeners, you'll get an exclusive 15% off your entire order when you use code OC at checkout. That's 15% off your order at lolavie.com with promo code OC. Please note you can only use one promo code per order and discounts can't be combined.
After you make your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Your hair will thank you.
Okay, so what else do we want to talk about? Should we get into Ryan and Marissa? Is there any other things that pop out to you, Cory, that were in the script?
I feel like the Seth and Summer, I had forgotten, like, I knew the relationship, but I had forgotten, like, the strike and, like, oh, we're going to have sex. And I was like, looking at it now as an older adult, I was like, we did this and they were doing that in high school. Like, boys weren't even allowed in my room. And then I was thinking, I was like, I remember, like, reading these scripts going like, these kids are really advanced, because I felt so close to high school when I was working on this, right? Like I was probably CG's age now or a little bit older. And so like high school was very fresh to me. And I was like, wow, California kids. Like, right.
Well, I want to ask a question. Rachel asked Mom, you and I think his name was Wilson on the last podcast.
Oh, yeah.
No one's required to answer, but have you guys ever experienced a booty call? Like called a booty call or been a booty call?
It's such a weird thing because I wouldn't know, like, I guess if it's defined by exactly what Caleb did, he just shows up and I, you know.
No, that's, I mean, he kind of does it, but booty call is like, hey, come over. You know what this is for.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, like you up.
I was actually thinking about the booty call and I was like, when you asked, oh, how did that come up? And I was like, I wonder if that was a newer thing back then, because we all started to have cell phones, right? Like you didn't pick up the landline and call like the guy and like,
hey, what are you doing? Yeah.
His parents could have answered, or his roommates. Like now it's like you just send a text.
Oh, it's still a term I use all the time. And I will say I have called booty calls.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
God. I'm learning.
Your mom is like,
Mom, man. I'm 24 now. Get over it.
Yeah, but I have a feeling this was when you were younger.
No, I was in college.
But still younger.
Yeah, but like of drinking age. That makes me an adult.
Okay. Yeah, I have a feeling.
That's my goal, Cory, just so you know, to like try and make her uncomfortable on this. I have so much fun. You know, hey mom.
What?
DILF. She hates that word.
So CG's been talking about, we were talking about the character.
Matt Ramsey.
Who was Jeff Hefner. And I said he was a silver fox. And CG says, you mean like a DILF? And I was like, don't use that word. Ew. So now she likes to say.
I say things to make her uncomfortable.
Well, I forgot there was a character, Matt Ramsey. I was like, you were talking about
right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So mom, no booty calls for you?
Well, see, this is the thing. I'm like, no, I'm sure there's booty calls, like, but it's not, I guess in my mind, not the way Caleb did it. Nobody, you know, I love Julie's reaction.
No, but the way Cory described it, like, hey,
yeah.
What are you doing? Come over.
Yeah, probably, but not like in high school or anything.
No. Yeah, not in high school.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think, you know, probably with my husband, you know.
No, that's not a booty call.
No,
you're not married.
Before we were,
but you had a relationship before, right? Like you weren't just, unless it was a booty call turned husband. Amazing.
Is he a booty call turned husband? Booty calls usually don't turn into husbands. They're usually temporary.
They're buddies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the.
Yeah.
So not really. No. Then.
So yeah, no, I wouldn't classify that as booty call. Okay. I don't think you're understanding the concept of booty call, Mom.
I guess not. So good thing Julie knew.
Yeah.
You know, the whole, I remember that he says, what's a booty call? And she's like, you know, when you show up, no commitments, no compliments. And
she says, with mini carns from Ralph's.
Some crappy mini carns from Ralph's. And with the mistaken idea that I just might want to. And then Josh was like, I wish you could actually say that. And I said, can I go? And I think I tried to do it with the F and with the door slam, but they cut that out too.
It's funny. He turns around and goes, I guess it was a booty call.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, let's get to really quick. Let's get to Ryan and Marissa. There's a lot going on with them this whole thing about them trying to be friends and Teresa coming and being in town. And, you know, do you remember this, Cory? Like after everything that Marissa had put Ryan through with Oliver, and he's like, and the reason they break up, he's like, as much as I want to, it's like he can't get over it. You know, these kids never have therapy, right?
These kids needed a lot of therapy.
Yeah.
They all needed to be in therapy right away.
Yeah.
Dealing with hard stuff and not like having anyone to talk to.
So imagine, you know, you nobody will believe you about this guy Oliver, and finally we find out that he's just a wacko and he got a gun and all this kind of stuff. And then previously Ryan is with Marissa and he has this, and she's like, it looks like they're about to do it. She's being aggressive. And he's like, I can't. Like, you've betrayed, you don't even trust me. And something's broken, especially when a teenage guy turns down, like, he's been wanting to be physical with her for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, teenage boys.
Yeah. So she's like, it's still very close.
I mean, yeah. Like, I'm 24. Like Cory said, like, we're probably the same age. Like, you're not that far from being a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it still feels like I'm a teenager.
I think it's going to feel like that for a while. I just, you're the generation that by 2030, we're going to be able to live till we're 500. That's
no, I want to die. I don't want to do that. I don't like AI. I would rather die.
It's not AI.
Yeah, but like that weird, creepy technology. Sorry, we're getting off track.
Okay. But yeah, so Ryan and Marissa, they're trying to be friends, and it doesn't really work. And Teresa shows up. I think it was probably one of the smarter storylines to bring back his something comfortable from Chino, because it's still the first season. Do you have any memories of that in the beginning?
I remember when I wrote the book after this season, like, it was him back in Chino with her.
Right. Oh, so you filled in the gaps, the summers, right?
Yeah.
Well, so what did you write for the gaps after?
Like, he just became this which you already see, right? That he was very responsible. He was like, okay, this is where I came from. And had I never left, this was the life I would have led, right? Like, I would have gotten married very young and had kids very young and gotten a responsible job. And, I'm not going to make millions, but I'm going to be supportive of my family, kind of thing. But yeah, I think that storyline probably just was a way to ground it back to like reality, where it's like, you look at all these other things and it's like, he's been taken into Newport, and it's a world that most of this country has never seen, right? Like, I grew up in Indiana. That was not my high school experience. The big parties, the Range Rovers.
It's still, and I grew up down a few miles, like, 20 miles south. And it still, to me, was Newport was a bubble that you saw, like that affluence that was just above and beyond.
Maybe my high school experience was the closest to what they did. Because I grew up in the Valley in LA with, all the celebrities' kids going to school with me, and the big Valley parties and Beverly Hills and stuff like that. But I think Teresa coming in, like, Ryan experienced so much like turmoil with Marissa and Oliver previously that I really like that this was a way to make him feel like safe and comfortable, because like your first love, and like there's always going to be like something safe feeling there. And like it was a way to like bring him down and like ground him. And like I think it was a really good storyline, even though I'm like, Teresa, get out of there. Leave so Marissa and Ryan can get back together. I think it was a good storyline because it was, like you said, Cory, like super realistic after all this like crazy Oliver stuff was going on. Like this storyline actually felt very high school, whereas everything else is like, these are like 30-year-olds doing all this crazy stuff that no teenager should ever have to do. This storyline is like definitely high school.
But it's also an interesting thing that Teresa's circumstances are such that she has to live almost as an adult. She's pushed into, in a situation because of her financial situation. She's pushed into a much more adult, responsibilities. And I think that's a really great exploration of, those first 20, because this is episode 20. So we've been in Newport, like you said, for a while. I mean, at this point, in episode 20, which we'd have 7 more, you already know that Ryan, and spoilers, guys, people know that this is a spoiler show, that they're leaving, or that Ryan's going to go back at this point. We have to introduce a character to take him away from Newport. That's already been established when this is being shot, right?
Yeah, as you said that, I'm like, because I don't remember like the writer's room at that point. I wasn't actually in it, but I was, very close to all of this. And I'm sure it was like, the season had been mapped out, like, okay, the end of season 1, these guys are going to leave. How do we get him out of here? And that was sort of the most logical.
Yeah, it was interesting when he, because Eddie's coming after her or trying to find, and then when Ryan figures it out and says, what do you mean you're engaged? And what are you doing? And you can't just up and leave. And she says, well, you did. And I thought, Well, he's a minor who just got adopted essentially by this family. He was what was these,
Yeah.
and I was like, come on, Ryan. Like her argument wasn't
It wasn't solid.
right.
I do want to ask Cory, you wrote like Ryan being in Chino back with Teresa. So we know that like Eddie is, wanting to marry Teresa, and we know that Teresa ultimately, I don't know if she ends up with Eddie, but like she ends up having a kid and stuff. Did Eddie play into like what you wrote?
That's a good question. Like, I don't remember. Obviously, he would have. Like, I don't think Ryan went back there.
I think you brought us the books, didn't you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean they're in a closet
I'm just
here.
with the whole Eddie thing, and then
Yeah.
like she does end up with Eddie, right? Like in later seasons or something. I think no, she does. Oh, someone just said no, she does not.
No,
She said Ryan's
She chooses neither of them
in the book.
Yeah.
Josephine knew this.
No, I'm saying like in later seasons.
No,
She had Eddie's kid, but doesn't end up with Eddie. That's what it is. But then you guys have talked about how there was speculation that it was actually Ryan's kid.
I keep saying that, and Josh keeps shooting me down because the whole world wanted it to be Ryan's baby, and then it was and he was like, nope, it was Eddie's.
Because if it was Ryan's, like I feel like it changes the whole show, and then it puts like something else on Ryan for the rest of his.
Yeah,
I thought she ended up with Eddie though.
I thought she did too.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I do want to say, like, I was like not team Ryan and Teresa at all. I don't know. They just like didn't do it for me. But someone commented on YouTube. I think Elias Simon said, I don't think Teresa and Ryan have more chemistry, and I find Teresa super boring, TBH. And it kind of feels like she's always in a sour mood. I was like, I get that. Like, they don't have the same kind of chemistry. Like, they seem like buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they did.
You know what was interesting when I was watching it? I was like, oh, she does feel like a teenager. But I remember when they were shooting it and she was in those scenes, I was like, she just feels too old for him. Like she doesn't feel like she's a high schooler in the same way that everyone else did. So I think that's part of it too. Like it just didn't feel right.
In real life that they same age.
Yeah, she seems older, like living in a hotel and working, and yeah, they didn't gel.
But here's what's interesting is like when they talk about casting, like Misha she really was 16, 17, 18 in the beginning. But 16, 17, 18-year-old boys don't look as mature as Marissa. And they catch up at probably by 22, 23, 24.
I just have another thing, since I'm so close to high school, I guess. The whole like being friends with an ex thing and like trying to make it work, it doesn't work. You can't be friends with an ex. And someone commented saying like LJ419 on Reddit, like it breaks my heart a little how Ryan and Marissa try so hard to be just friends, but they really can't because there's too many sparks between them. It's like, I totally agree. I could never be friends with one of my exes. Like there's too much history. There's too much drama. There's always going to be something there. I'm like, they're trying to push it after all this drama happened. And I don't feel like it's possible.
I remember mentioning in the last podcast how much I liked Misha's performance in this because there was moments where it just looked like Misha, like where you could just feel, when Ryan sits down to lunch with her or something. And then she's being cool. Like she's really doing her best to be chill about it. She's not trying to be jealous. She's not trying to be angry or she's not sobbing. But when Jimmy's like, hey, if you like him, you better let him know. And she shows up at that dinner.
That was so awkward.
And I guess my comment in the last podcast was like, that's the Julie Cooper in her. Because who would do that? Like, I can't she's like, I'm going to sit down. I'm part of this family almost. Like, hey, can I have some dinner?
Yeah, that's so true. Like, if I showed up to that, I'd be like, oh, it's fine. I'm going. Like, I don't need to be here.
I mean, I think she genuinely thought that it was just going to be Ryan and she wanted to see him. But then she's like, okay. I also loved Misha's hair color in this episode. She's blonder in the later episodes, but there's something really just like, I don't know. I think it's more like her natural color. I don't know. I like to look at the aesthetics, and I love that white jacket and that polka dot shirt that she was wearing at the dinner.
Oh yeah, that was really cute.
I know, right? Like the fashion.
I know some of it because it's all coming back now, and I'm like, oh wait, right.
But I think this episode, when I was posting on Instagram for it, a lot of it was just I just asked people this episode in particular, and this had so many great one-liners.
I wrote a few down.
Well, I was going to say one of the ones in the beginning where he's like, coming from experience, the triangle is not a great shape. It's pointy. It has hard edges. And with Eddie in it, it's more like a romantic rhombus. just like all of this clever dialogue that I can see, like, since we're going back and forth in the different episodes, and we're, of course, which brings us constantly to different seasons. I see that magic in this first season. This dialogue, how wonderful it was.
Yeah, like I wrote some down, and I was gonna just like mention to Cory, I know you weren't technically like fully in the writer's room at that time, but what was the process like of like, because obviously like it's a comedic show, but it's a drama. So how do you like balance like, oh, those funny, like was it more like, cause I know Brody improvs a lot. Were you like, okay, go improv here? Because I don't really know how scripts work and like on set, or like how did that go about? Because he has most of the one-liners like in season 1.
He does. But I think a lot of that is Josh. That's really...
It is.
Like, because some of it I was like, oh, did Brody come up with that? But even when you read the script, it's like it was already in there. And then sometimes he added more. And it seemed like as time went on, Brody kind of got the gist of what was happening, right? And I don't know, you were on set, Melinda, so you would probably know like, oh, as he progressed, he got better and better at doing that.
Exactly. So I think what happened, and even Adam talks about it in the book, that he essentially, there's the core of the scene. And if you're going to improv, you always want to make sure that you get it done the way it's been written, because it's not just a pass. They've done multiple passes on every syllable. Yeah. And I think most actors, you want to get it done the way it's written. But what you can do is you can start a scene with something of your own, and you can button a scene with something of your own. So as the scene's ending, so they can always edit around it, or they can keep it. So he started doing that a lot. And then we all started picking up on that. And so a lot of times that's where you can just kind of play if you let the camera roll. But there were little things as we noticed, there were moments where I think he would improv in the background a little bit.
I think with the buttoning up, some of the one-liners I said are like when he first goes on quote unquote strike with Summer, and then when she shows back up at his house and is like, okay, it's been 2 hours. So he goes, fight the power, and solidarity. Like, and I thought that was so funny. So I think that's probably Brody like buttoning up the scene, because it's always as he's walking out or as like Summer is walking out.
I don't know. She's got the script.
Well, I do have the script, and actually that's something I wrote down was because the solidarity is in the script, and then as he's shutting the door, there was another line that Josh wrote, and it was, "Well, Lefty, looks like it's just you and me again."
Oh,
and clearly that didn't make it, but. It was in like a later draft too, so they may have shot that.
Okay, so
that should have been in it. I would have been on the floor
sure
laughing.
That would not have.
I know you're like standards was like, nuh-uh, take it out.
We know what that means.
Get it out of here.
There's another line that I was reminded of this because I remember this as well. And Sonia Arlington on Instagram said, because of the Janet Justin Super Bowl halftime incident, networks were being extra cautious. So some of Seth and Summer's dialogue in this episode was edited out. So when she comes back over for that, when she's like, it's been a couple hours, and she's like, come on, you can, she said,
she says, what if you don't have to do anything?
And then she says, you can just lie there like a buffet and I'll serve myself. And that got shot. I mean, they shot it, but they ended up cutting it out. But the next comment was, I didn't realize this line was out. Because on the DVDs, it's on the DVDs, and also I'm pretty sure it was it aired where I live.
So they cut it out later, like on streaming services. They cut that line out.
Well, it may not have aired in the U.S. I don't know. That's what this person is thinking. Like maybe in a different country it aired.
Maybe the Lefty line aired in a different place too. Yeah. Maybe in like the UK or something where less regulations.
Is Josh a lefty?
Yeah, is Seth a lefty? Because wouldn't it be righty?
Some people are ambidextrous.
Yeah.
Oh man. So most of the comments, yes, the great dialogue, but this was the storyline that people had the most response to, because when we put it out there, Cory, and say, "Hey guys, we're doing this episode," this is just the storyline that people remember the most. And somebody actually said, such a good episode, will always be my favorite show. My husband and I watch it at least once a year. It never gets old. I finally let my 13-year-old watch it for the first time, and she loved it too. So the biggest response was to the standing on top of the car, at the kissing booth, And because Anna, she was like, you can't let this, you can't let her run over you and not acknowledge you.
Sorry, before we get into, how it ends, this episode, I was very upset with Summer. This whole episode.
Mean to him, right?
She sucked. Like, if you like someone, why are you, like, she was so mean, totally ignoring him. And Anna walks over, like, especially when Seth is, like, on the couch behind a book and Summer's over there surrounded by the water polo players. And Anna's like, she's ignoring you. Like, I was like, what is he? I know he loves her, but, like, this is the Summer that, like, this is, like, episode 1 Summer. Like, where, like, it was like, there's no character progression here, obviously, until the end of the episode. But I was pissed.
Watching it, you were pissed?
I was pissed.
Yeah.
If I was Seth, I would have said, like, I mean, he did the right thing. He was like, I'm not doing this. But
it makes for great. No, I just think it makes for great because, this is happening. And then all of a sudden Anna's back and he's like, oh, hey. And she's like, this is why I get it. This is why I broke up with you. And, I mean, and she has so many great, like I said it in the last podcast, she was like their little fairy godmother, helping them figure it out. Mm-hmm. And it must be painful for her, but she's got some of the best dialogue when she finally does say, Summer, I'm scared. I've got him and now he's going to break up with me. It was up until that point, we all just had this angry, like this reaction to how could she do this to him, right? And I think that's so wonderful when Anna finally says, bar545, I know who you are on Instagram. Anna, I think, had one of the best lines when she was talking to Summer. Wonder Woman has an invisible jet, not an invisible boyfriend. And still, Summer couldn't give it up. She was too scared, right?
Anna saying that, Anna and Seth just make so much more sense to me. Like, like I wrote down, I was like, they have such, like, their banter is so much better. Like, they go back and forth, like they get each other a lot better. And
I think it's written that way, right?
Yeah. But it's like,
obviously,
it was just, no, it wasn't written like that. They just did it.
That's how they are.
That's how they are in real life. It's just like the banter was better. And like, I think the writing was done really well. Like, I was rooting for like Anna and Seth and in these like chunk of episodes.
Yeah. You know what's funny when you're talking about that and you're like, no, that's how they are. That sort of starts to happen in the writer's room, right? Where like you become so invested in these characters that they're actually real to you. And so I remember like people would be like, well, Ryan would never do that. And somebody was like, Ryan doesn't really exist. Like Ryan could do whatever we make him do, right? Like, but after a while, once you've lived with these characters and they've become these like people that you care about, you are like, no, that person would never do that, or they would do that, So it's a weird thing that starts to come into existence.
I totally get it. Like you actually form the person in your mind.
Yeah.
I think that's what's really interesting about just television in general, especially when you're doing 27 episodes a year and you're shooting 10 months out of the year, that it's the actors and the writers who and obviously your script supervisors and such, but keep that continuity. Because every once in a while you get a guest director who will say, hey, what do you guys maybe do this? And it's the director you have to say, and the writer might be there and the actor will say, no, that's not consistent with what my character would do. That's why a writer is almost always on set to make sure, especially if it's a new director. If it's a repeat director, then they know, because you want to keep consistent with that. But that would be such a fascinating like documentary, behind the scenes, hidden camera, just to be in the writer's room to see how you guys all, I've always thought it was fascinating. I've only heard stories. I've never been in there, but how the process works of how, this person loves, or, like I said on the podcast last time, how my job is to really embrace it, take some chances, make the dialogue come alive, because in that writer's room, they can say, oh, I can't wait to do this. I got these great ideas for Julie Cooper, or these great ideas for Adam. He's delivering such, or this person did this. It's inspiring to do this. Does that happens for writers, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then like, it all comes together too, right? Because then you see the actors and then you're like, okay, they can do this and this is where they shine. And
Yeah.
you want it.
Oh my gosh. It's so much fun.
But yeah, just seeing like Anna saying all these things, like, I don't know. I think it was really well done. Like in this episode, like I loved Anna and hated Summer.
Oh,
But then you learn and whatever. But for the majority of this episode, I was like, why did he ever leave Anna?
I love CG being here because she's still she's watching it again for the first time. And it's still she's representing how these girls were probably watching it for the first time in high school way back when. And because I remembered it, but I still, even though I knew the storyline, I was still kind of like, she's good. She's written really well where she's like, no, that is insensitive. I told you how I feel. And I thought she's really good. I almost would believe her. I don't want to be insensitive to how she feels.
Are you talking about Summer or Anna, Mom?
I'm talking about Summer, that it upset me, even though I knew what the real to the performance and the writing and everything. It did what it was supposed to.
Oh, 100%. Me saying like, whenever I say, oh, I hated this person, I was so mad. It's like, that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to make me feel like this. And it's nothing against the actors, or it's like, it was done well because it's bringing out this kind of reaction in me. Like I was pissed.
Well, and I think it's a great moment that not only did we find out the vulnerable scene with Anna and Summer, that we see another layer, but also based on, and I'm going this comment, the Seeker 711 on YouTube, Anna was a real friend. Without her, they never make it. She was selfless because she lost in that exchange. But like I said, she was a real friend. You learn by watching how other people act. And I think Summer having that act of kindness or that motivation, those things, it might not change her immediately, but I think those things like are seeds that are planted. So I love the exploration of this teen world that was done so well. And also, we love Anna's clothes. How fun are they? Right?
I know.
I want to ask, I know they touched on this a little bit in the book, but just from your perspective, Cory, like, how is the decision made to like write Anna out? Like, when did you guys know that was going to happen? And it was just like figuring out the right time to do it? Or because like they said in the book, like she could have stayed a lot longer and a lot of other things could have been done with her character. Like, how was that decision ultimately made? Because I remember watching for the first time, I was like, where's she going? Like, she just got here. Like, I feel like there's so much more that could have been done with her.
They even wanted a spin-off with her. There was huge pressure to do some.
But I don't want a spin-off. I wanted her in Newport.
Yeah, you want her in Newport.
Yeah.
No, I know. She should have. I mean, there is a lot there, but I don't remember. Like, I know it was a lot of different factors. Like, it wasn't just storyline. It was production. It was budget. It was other things too, I believe.
Yeah.
That was 20 some years ago.
I know. I'm like asking you to dig into your memory bank. I'm like, fish it out.
Well, CG, this is why I thought it was so, if I look back at the first, Rachel, the podcast that we did, we were just like, okay, we're just reacting to the show and interviewing some people. And now that the books come out, I'm like, oh, it answered so many questions that I had. The same thing you're doing, like as you're sitting there and you think, I wonder why this actor left, or they decided to write the storyline. And I think it was because they were obviously committed to the Summer Seth from the
right. Beginning. Their end game, they are, but
yeah. But Josh has talked about how they, it's also to make room for these new characters that they were going to bring on. But he's also talked about how it would have been nice to have Anna and Luke stick around and to develop those characters because they're essentially season 1 characters that the audience was invested in. It was harder to introduce characters to get them invested in the second season.
I agree.
I do remember that in the writer's room, like as we are introducing more characters, it became harder and harder to come up with stories because it didn't feel like that core.
You hadn't like established the person yet. Yeah, so you didn't know.
You're not as attached to them as you are everyone else.
Well, let's talk about this episode.
The epic kiss.
The epic kiss, because this is what Jelly Miser on YouTube. This remains my favorite Seth Summer kiss. Yes, the Spider-Man kiss is epic and an iconic music moment, but this kiss was perfect and really showed how much they push each other and bring the best out of each other. Miss these old seasons. And then GG454 Loon on YouTube said, girls swooning, delighted by what happened while guys are going away disgusted by the idea that a girl like Summer dates a guy like Seth is a little cliche, but the scene is so cute. It really is. It's like this moment where I think you're kind of cringe for him, but but at the same time, you see the girls all like, oh.
What was the line he said? It's acknowledge me now or lose me forever.
Still gets me.
That's iconic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kaylee Hall 8770 on YouTube. Seth getting up on the coffee cart and declaring his love for Summer in front of the school was so romantic. One of my favorite Sethmer scenes. It's so precious.
I agree. So romantic. If I was in high school, I would have like melted if I was Summer. Like, I know she's embarrassed about it being Cohen and whatever, but I would have like, my knees would have been wobbly. I wouldn't have been able to get up on that coffee cart. Like, being a high school student. Oh, I'm such a romantic, Mom. Love Actually is my favorite movie. Aww. Let's be real here.
And I'm kind of like I was like, I don't want attention. Like, I was in high school. I was like, oh, no, you like me? Oh, go away.
Mom, I was on the prom court. I love attention. I love attention.
That's true. I was never on a prom court. No.
I was.
Okay, so I want to know if you agree with this. I thought this comment was great from Sophia Ortega 7044 on YouTube. Seth and Summer are one of the healthiest relationships in any teen show. Compared. So I was like, ooh, that's an interesting comment. Like, why is that?
I'm thinking about relationships in like other teen shows from that era that I watched.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it is on the healthier side, but like, I don't think any high school relationship is really going to be that healthy. I think theirs was written very like with all the chaos and turmoil of this like place, the OC going on. Seth and Summer had a very realistic high school relationship, I think. I think it was the closest thing to reality with all this other turmoil going on.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I when it said it, I was like, it made me stop and think. And I thought, why? And I think this person's thinking as a whole for when they actually see, even though they have their issues and whatnot, I think when you think healthy, you think healthy is when you have problems that you just work on the solutions. You're not running away and you're not cheating on each other or you're not doing bad things. You're just living the complicated thing. I guess the relationships are hard. They're the most difficult thing to be successful at because it takes work and it takes dedication and it takes selflessness or giving the other person what the other person really needs, even if you don't want to give it to them in that moment, which happens all the time.
Yeah, I'm going through like my teen drama Rolodex in my head. I'm like, I think that's a fair statement that they're like on the healthier side of teen couples we see in shows like this.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, honestly, they're like, as I'm going through that Rolodex too, there's not one couple that I'm like, oh, they stand out, right? But everyone remembers Seth and Summer. Like, I don't remember the like 90210, like Brandon, Dylan, all that kind of like, it just, it doesn't stick the same way with you. A lot of the others.
Yeah.
And I think they had to, if you go compare it to Ryan and Marissa, like we made this comment before that you would think that Ryan would be the one with all the emotional problems. And it's not, it's Marissa.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ryan has some emotional problems. Let's be realistic. He likes to punch anything that moves.
But I think because he'd been through so much, he was looking for the stability. And unfortunately, Marissa was just still in it. And he got that stability with the Cohens. But yeah, no, poor Ryan. He couldn't stay. He couldn't find.
Well, with the whole Marissa thing, someone left a comment about how Marissa was like, she's like the wounded bird theory with Marissa, with Oliver, with Ryan, with Johnny, with Volchak, like all these wounded birds she wants to go and save. And so I think Ryan felt like a comfort from her, like because she was like trying to take care of him and trying to help him and all this stuff. So he did find a comfort in her at first, but then, it began to be too much after you realize like everything that's going on with Marissa. But I think she was a kind of like solid comfort for him at first, which is why this is so messy. Him being like, I want to be friends with her because like she has comforted me. She has been there for me like since I got here. But all this stuff has happened and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. No, but it was designed to be that way. She was the princess, right? Stephanie always said she was the princess in the castle that he needed to save, right?
Yeah.
I found the secret squirrel. I feel like I know Secret Squirrel on YouTube. One of the major reasons Ryan was attracted to Marissa is because he's used to being a caretaker as he was with his mother. Despite him wanting to get away from the chaos that he had at home in Chino, he's compelled to take care of Marissa, who is a mess and naive, so that she attracts trouble like Oliver. Teresa is comfortable to Ryan. And I think that's what everyone is saying over here in our chat room. Oh, Josephine, I love you, hon. She said, I found some ranking online of teen drama couples. Seth and Summer are second on the list. First is Haley and Nathan from One Tree Hill. Huh. And Rosina, gosh, they need to be number one. Haley and Nathan had time to develop since the show went on so long, and they had issues too. Thanks, guys. Thanks for our...
One Tree Hill is still one I haven't seen.
I know. It ended up being...
It's a long one. It's a commitment.
Yeah.
Josephine, the OC is better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Loyalty. Well, I just wanted to say, like, do you have any other, like, just season one? Should we talk about just season one in general? Because we've kind of covered the episode, like what we didn't talk about last time, or I don't know, like what memories do you have that would, like, what's a good topic we could talk about here?
I have a lot of good memories of the show. Like the pilot really sticks out for me.
Really?
Just like being there, like every moment. I felt like because Stephanie was there every moment, so I was just following her everywhere.
Right.
And I felt like so invested in this show.
Yeah.
No, you know what I found yesterday was a casting list. I know you're not to this episode yet. I don't even know if it's on your top 50, but the LA episode.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that will be on.
And it was like a list that got sent out that was like, here are our stunt like people that would be great. And it was like such a flashback, their wish list. And it was such a flashback to that time. But it was like the Paris Hilton, Kid Rock, Pamela Anderson, like these kind of people that were like big in the Us Weekly, Jessica Simpson, like that kind of, the Olsen twins. But then I was like, wow, but I still see them. Like, it's like they've come on a resurgence all of a sudden, you know, like Paris Hilton has her show, like her reality. And it's like, I feel like this weird, like, 20 years has passed. It's all coming back. Like, do you feel that at all? Like,
it's like a weird time capsule kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Like this was 20 years ago, but now all this stuff is resurfacing.
Oh my God.
In like a cool way.
Yeah, and poor Kid Rock though. Not poor, but well, my gosh, you might be the untapped asset that we haven't tapped. Because I'm like, you know, all this like little behind the scenes things of, you know, really beyond the OC, the show that was presented. You've got all this behind the scenes like scripts, and just to see some of the I mean, I know that I have some scripts somewhere, but I moved so many times in a few decades.
I have some of your Vampire Diaries scripts here.
It's amazing.
But we never did the podcast with the scripts in hand, and I kept asking people for them.
I'm glad you had the script in hand for the Adam thing, knowing that he's lefty.
Little tidbits.
Yeah, I remember a lot about wardrobe because Stephanie was like very into that. You know, she spoke to the wardrobe department a lot.
Did she have a lot of influence on Anna's like wardrobe?
Yes, that's very Stephanie Savage.
Oh, I love that.
I always thought that was Samira. That was like,
I think it's a mixture, but like I feel like Stephanie has that sort of edge to her too.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I always thought
that's cool.
That was like, how did they come up with like, because it's so unique and it was so Samira, and I thought, and she dressed very similarly off camera. And, you know, like the pinks and the layers and all the different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, me personally, Mindy, that was my favorite stuff. You know, Julie was always a little bit more, there was a lot of Cavalli and tailored things from time to time. Or
did Stephanie have an influence on like what Julie wore in that scene where she looked extra milfy?
Probably. I do remember because like during the first season, or at least a big chunk of it, I was Stephanie's assistant. So a lot of that stuff would come through me, like, because she was unavailable. So it would be like, Cory, go show this to Stephanie.
Yeah.
And it'd be like the pictures of the Polaroids, and we didn't have cell phones. Like, I'm sure life is much easier on set now.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, but the Polaroids were so cool. I remember being in the trailer and you see the Polaroids of like the outfits that they're wearing. And
so basically when you do a wardrobe fitting, you try on everything. And if it's a yes from the actor that I feel comfortable, I could wear this, and you give them at least 3, maybe 5 options that go to the producer and the network. And they usually say, I want that. I want that. So it's every once in a while you'd see your wardrobe in the trailer and you're like, oh, they picked that. And, but I think by the time you get like later on, I'd be like, this has to be the dress for this scene. And, I was very invested in it because
Julie has some hot looks.
I spent a lot of time actors kind of notoriously don't like the wardrobe fitting because it's a lot. So I would do like 2 or 3 hours, but I'd get like 3 episodes out of it instead of some actors just do like 30 minutes for every episode. So I would kind of do these kind of epic long fittings and try things for the future. It was fun. It was a lot.
I can't imagine something more fun, getting to try on a bunch of
like fun. I was always jealous of you.
Yeah.
Like we would see, and as time went on, right, it was like the bigger designers came through and like nicer clothing. And I was like, oh, wow.
I'm going to try that stuff on.
Yeah.
I keep asking her, I'm like, so you didn't keep any of the clothes that they gave you? Like, she's given me some things, but I'm like, you didn't keep more? Because like you said, like things from that time are coming back now. I'm like, I would wear so much of the stuff that Julie was wearing. Like, really? Why didn't you keep more?
Basically, at the end, it's Warner Brothers has a huge, their wardrobe. It's a commodity. And especially they call them asset pieces. If they're iconic for the character, then you're not allowed to have them. And at the end, they've learned to kind of say, okay, you can take a couple things here and there. Like on Nikita, you're allowed to take a certain amount of things, but otherwise it goes back to Warner Brothers and it's stock where shows can pull from, their stock. And then at some point there's a Warner Brothers sale of clothing, you guys.
I want to go to that.
And I know I can't, like somebody said, I have something that said Julie Cooper on it because they'll write in Sharpie the character name on the wardrobe.
That's cool.
I don't know if they.
I want to go to that sale.
Yeah, we'd have to find out if they're doing that anymore. Oh man. Well, guys, I think that's it. This has just been wonderful. The telenovela. We had so much fun. I still love talking about this, and I love hearing any behind the scenes stuff. So I'll be like texting you from time to time.
Yeah, no, please do. It's fun to reminisce and like go look for this stuff because it just like brings me back to like a happy time.
Yeah.
Oh, and how's motherhood? How old is your?
It's great. She is turning 1 in 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Oh yeah,
that's crazy. That's so exciting.
I know.
She walking about to?
She's like taking steps on her own, but she's not like running yet.
That's the next step where you can't like now that you can't let her go.
I know. I'm worried.
Hey, Mom, you let me go on the playground. Remember, I got that big bonk, that like egg on my head.
That happened in our bedroom on our stairs.
Oh, I thought it was on the playground.
Yeah, no, that was her. You were a crawler.
But see, you let me go.
Well, you were a crawler, and then your head just hit the step, and she had an egg on her head this big.
Oh,
yeah. Don't do that.
I feel like she runs into everything at this point. There's always bruises. I'm like, oh.
It's the forehead is it swells big, but it's not as dangerous as if it's somewhere else on the head. That's a good one to know.
Oh, that is good to know.
It might be ugly, but it's not scary.
It's okay.
I had a lot of eggs.
You'll be okay. You were all right.
I mean, I guess I recovered a little bit, from the head injury.
Yeah.
Kind of. We'll see.
Kind of. I don't know.
We'll see. Oh, gosh. Okay, everyone. Thank you all so much for listening. Please be sure to check my Instagram, the stories and the posts at the Melinda Clark, as well as our weekly Reddit thread for what episodes we're covering next. Will it be one of your favorites? If so, please go to speakpipe.com/OCBitch. Please, guys, leave us some voicemails so we can play them on the show. And or you can, that's kind of a great way to let me know if you want to be on the show. Or you can email us at beyondtheocpodcast@gmail.com to let us know what makes it your favorite. Do you have a favorite line, a favorite scene? We might play your voicemail on the show, ask you to come on live and discuss it. If you'd like to watch this podcast, check it out on Beyond the OC YouTube channel. You can leave comments there too.
If you want to be a part of the conversation, join our Patreon to get episodes early and ad-free every week. And we have Zoom meetings every week to discuss the previous week's episode. And you can watch us record live and give us little comments as we're recording. And join us next week for number 42 in the countdown, The Perfect Storm. It's season 3, episode 5.
I'll be asking you for details, Cory.
Yeah,
Cory, pull out all the scripts.
I know. And thank you all, Josephine and Steven and Rosina. Who else is in there? A few others who came to the audience. And thank you all for your comments. It's been awesome.
Thank you for being here, Cory. I love, especially as I'm a viewer, I wasn't on it. So the behind the scenes stuff makes me, because this is a show that I actually enjoyed, whether my mom was on it or not. So I love all the little funny behind the scene tidbits.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This has been fun.
Yes, it's just you and me, Lefty. That's my new sign off. Julie,
and Mom,
walk on.
Don't forget, booty calls don't turn into husbands. That's the message to take away from this episode, everyone. Booty calls don't turn into husbands. They are just booty calls.
Oh, good to know.
Wise words of wisdom from CG.
Got it. Thank you. And with that being said,
bye bitches.
Lefty.
Bye, Lefty.